Chapter 1. Breaking Down. I've long since learned to recognize the moment you're no longer needed. That look on your commander's face, like you're already a shadow, even though you're still standing in front of him. His hand rested on the folder with my resignation. His expression calm, like a pilot riding through a supersonic stall. "Are you sure, John?" he asked. "I'm sure. Only 2 years left till retirement. I'd rather leave while the planes still obey me than wait for the applause." He sighed and signed. That was it. The paper went to the archive, and I went nowhere. My name is John West. Colonel, United States Air Force. Test pilot with 25 years under my belt. Once, I was the golden boy of the academy. A face on TV features, posters, recruitment ads. Now, a worn-out part, ready to be decommissioned. All the good stuff? Behind me. All the strange and uncertain? Ahead. Family? Divorced, 3 years ago. My wife got tired of waiting for me to finally land in this life. My son? Jake. We used to build paper models together. He'd fall asleep listening to stories about the stars. Now, he's someone else. Or maybe just lost. Substance abuse. Relapse. Rehab. Another relapse. The last call I got was from a center in Arizona. His voice was tired. Frightened. "Dad, I'm sorry. I tried. And I didn't know what to say. I just listened." As if that alone could fix anything. At the medical screening, the psychologist ticked the box without hesitation. "Any thoughts of harming yourself or others?" "Only if you put me in another F-22 with faulty wiring." He didn't laugh. Neither did I. That evening, I packed my things. Everything left of my life fit into one old duffel bag. Jacket. Notebook. Razor. A couple of books. A photo of the family, old, worn at the edges. We were still together then. Jake with a smile a mile wide, me holding him on my shoulders. Lisa's hand on my chest, like she truly believed I could protect them from anything. How wrong we all were. I stood at the barracks window, watching the sky burn crimson. Training jets buzzed in the distance. Somewhere, someone laughed. But for me, all of it already belonged to the past. I almost felt relief. Almost. But everything changed the next morning. I was sipping bitter, too hot coffee in the mess hall. The plastic cup burned my fingers. No one sat at my table. Everyone knew I was a departing man. Like a ghost. No one wants to make small talk with a ghost. "Colonel West?" A voice behind me. I turned. A major. Headquarters type. Unfamiliar face. "Yes. You're requested for one more interview. Confidential. High clearance." I filed my papers. "I'm done." "That's exactly why they're asking. Trust me, you'll want to hear this." He was calm. Too calm. Behind him waited an unmarked black van with tinted windows. I stared for a long moment. I had a choice. Tell them to go to hell, or play one last hand. Damn it, I was curious. What could anyone want from a washed-up pilot? I chose the latter. Inside the van, cold and silent. No emblems. No markings. Just a driver in dark glasses and a folder with my name on it. We drove for a long time, past familiar hangars, familiar faces. Then just concrete and a white sky. No explanations. I was handed off to personnel from Edwards Base, then loaded onto a military aircraft. A C-17 transport with no call signs. Silence. Gray seat belts. And then I realized where we were landing, and my heart skipped a beat. Antarctica. White, silent, like a lunar landscape. A single landing strip in the middle of the ice. The cold hit my face like a slap. The wind mask didn't help. All around, domes, antennas, guards, vehicles, floodlights. But this didn't look like a research station. This was a military base. Deep black. Even the air smelled different, lifeless, sterile, as if the planet itself had stopped breathing. This way, Colonel. They're expecting you. I had no idea why I was here. But something in me knew. My life had just turned down a road that wasn't on any map. Chapter 2, A White Silent Dot. No one spoke on the way to the complex. Only the hum of the engine and the crunch of snow under the wheels of the rover broke the silence. The whiteness outside merged with the sky. It felt as though we were trapped in another reality, flat, sterile, timeless, and soundless. We stopped in front of a massive structure buried deep in the ice. A flat facade, gray concrete, no markings. Just an airtight airlock and two armed guards in black suits with no insignias. The kind of place that looked like it wasn't supposed to exist. "Follow me," one of them said. His voice sounded mechanical, almost synthetic. I walked down a narrow tunnel. The walls buzzed softly with the pulse of hidden cables. There was a strange smell in the air, metallic, faintly sweet, like the aftermath of a thunderstorm. Underfoot, a composite floor. On the walls, embedded panels with running lights. Somewhere in the distance, machinery hummed. They brought me to a room that looked more like an operating theater than a conference room. In the center, a table made of dark glass. Along one wall, a screen with a faint holographic shimmer. Opposite me, two people. One, a gray-haired man in a formal suit. The other, a woman in her 40s with a cold, analytical gaze. "Colonel West," the man said, not offering a handshake. "We're glad you agreed to meet. I wouldn't say I had much of a choice. You're always free to walk away. Though. I suspect you won't." He gestured toward the screen, and it came to life. A map of the globe unfolded before me. But the continents were all wrong, alien outlines, unfamiliar centers of civilization. "What is this?" "This is how Earth looked around 13,000 years ago," the woman said. "Before the event you'd call the Great Flood." "Atlantis?" I smirked. "You're closer to the truth than you think." The gray-haired man nodded. "Atlantis isn't a myth. It was a real civilization, far ahead of anything you've ever known. They didn't just exist. They were the first to go beyond Earth. And they're still alive." I stared at them, waiting for the punchline. "Alive? Where?" "On the moon." A heavy silence followed. I held back a laugh. "Forgive me, but you're asking me to believe that Atlanteans are living on the moon? Not descendants. Survivors. Those who left when it became clear they were going to be destroyed." I said nothing. But something inside me shifted. What they said sounded insane. But there wasn't a trace of humor in their voices. Not even a crack in their certainty. "Who destroyed them?" I asked. "Those you might call members of the Galactic Union," the man replied. "A powerful coalition of races. The Atlanteans refused to comply. They were too independent, and too dangerous." "A war?" "A genocide," the woman said. "But they foresaw the end. And some escaped. Into lunar sanctuaries. Why hasn't anyone heard of this? Because it's been hidden. Very carefully. And those who do find out, are chosen. We call it the Lunar Custodian Protocol. I tried to absorb it all. And you want me to become one of the patrol. A custodian. Your skills, your training, your psychological endurance, you're a perfect candidate. I've submitted my resignation. I'm done. Exactly. You have nothing left to lose. And perhaps, something to regain. They knew. About my son. About everything. What happens if I refuse? We'll take you back. You'll forget this conversation. But you'll remember the feeling, that you didn't answer your final call. The screen now showed the moon. But not the one we knew. This one had structures inside. Tunnels, docks. Life. I stared at it, feeling everything I once believed begin to crack under the weight of these new truths. You have 24 hours. Make your decision. And if I say yes, then Earth will seem very small to you. And very, very fragile. Chapter 3, Guardians Beneath the Lunar Ice. I couldn't sleep. The guest room felt like a hotel, warm, sterile, anonymous. But beyond the walls of that capsule lay the Antarctic ice, a miles-deep silence. And somewhere beneath it, a gateway to something entirely different. I kept replaying everything I'd heard. Atlantis. The moon. A secret war. If someone had told me this yesterday, I'd have laughed it off. But the faces of those people, they spoke not like theorists, but like survivors of a personal tragedy. Not speculation. Grief. At dawn, the door opened. Have you made your decision? The same woman asked. Yes. We're listening. I'm going. Then get up. Exams, documents, preparation. You have less than a week. The next few days passed in a haze. I signed papers no mortal would ever see. Took tests, underwent medical screenings, returned to simulators, but not for planes. For something else. Something that flew without aerodynamics. Something that defied inertia. The first shock was the lack of intuitive controls. The craft I had to master had no windows, only panoramic projections. No yoke, no joystick. It responded to impulses, amplified by a neural interface. I thought that would be a problem. Turned out, it was the opposite. It felt natural. As if I already knew how it worked. As if it spoke my language. They explained. Each of us has something like a signature match. The Atlanteans don't choose the best. They choose those whose mental patterns resonate with their technology. Those who feel the ship. I was tested by an instructor, a human. An old man with a steely gaze. He said nothing when I first took the seat. Said nothing when I lifted the craft vertically, like an elevator. But when I returned, he said only. You caught on fast. Either you've got talent, or fate. 5 days later, we took off. Another C-17, but this time with a different cargo. Me, and 2 other candidates. One was a female pilot from a carrier. The other, a Japanese ex-astronaut. No one spoke much. We all had the same look in our eyes. People who saw Earth as something distant. We reached the launch point in Patagonia. There, we were transferred into something that looked like a cross between a shuttle and a submarine, an aerodynamic silver shell. Inside, darkness and a low hum. The pilot's seat, like a throne. Each of us had a neural helmet. I was the last to enter. Ready? A voice echoed in my head. Ready, I replied aloud, even though I knew I didn't have to. They never told us what the transition would feel like. In an instant, space bent around me. My ears filled with vacuum, not pain, but pressure, like being unraveled and put back together. Then, silence. The projection opened. Before me, a lunar landscape. But not the one from NASA photos. The surface was smooth, almost polished. Hundreds of domes, buildings, tunnels. Lights in the distance. Airlocks, landing docks. And at the center, a star-shaped structure, glowing in icy shades of blue and white. "Welcome to Arcos. The main base of the Guardians," said the same woman. But now her voice wasn't coming from a speaker. It was in my mind. Arcos? That's what the ancient language called the lunar shield. The vault. Two figures greeted me. One wore a uniform with no insignia. The other, something else. Human, but not quite. His eyes glowed faintly. His movements, fluid, predatory. His skin shimmered slightly. "Atlantean?" I asked. He smiled. "We call ourselves the Remaining." They took me to the habitation sector. Everything looked like an operating room, sterile, precise. But not cold. The atmosphere here, crafted by them. Artificial gravity. Oxygen. Pressure. Even artificial clouds beneath the domes. You knew you were inside the moon, but you didn't feel trapped. Only an eerie, profound calm. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared through the projection window. Out there. Earth. Blue, alive. My entire past. And here, a new war. A hidden mission. One chance. One man. And I was among the chosen. That's when I understood, I hadn't run away from life. I had simply found it again, beneath the lunar ice. Chapter 4. Out of time. Time flows differently on the moon. It's barely perceptible here. With no day or night, no familiar rhythms of earthly life, everything blurs into a continuous stream. Only the routine of training and briefings reminded me, you're alive, you're needed, you're here for a reason. Each morning began with immersion into the interface. Training came through direct neural connection. I absorbed images, schematics, protocols for combat maneuvers, not by reading or listening, but as if recalling them. It was frighteningly efficient. My mind adapted faster than my body ever could. My team turned out to be strange, mismatched, and surprisingly alive. The first I met was Kara. She was a hybrid. Half human, half something else. Her eyes glowed amber, her hair shimmered like metal, and her voice had crystalline precision. But she had more humanity than I expected. She laughed at my earthborn jokes and adored 80s music. "Why those songs?" I asked her once. "Because they carry longing. Real longing. And longing is the sign of a soul," she said, and fell silent. Then came Nuri, a technoarchaeologist from Earth, the only civilian recently brought in. They'd chosen him for his unique ability to decipher Atlantean writing. He said he could hear the language when he touched the symbols. We got along quickly. He asked questions, and I dodged answers. And then there was him. Cyrus. An older pilot, senior in rank, with silvered temples and the eyes of someone who'd seen more than one lifetime's worth. He became my mentor. Quiet, calm, never condescending. When I first sat at the controls of a combat module, it was he who stood behind me. "Don't try to control it. Just let the craft understand you," he said. "Does that actually work?" "It's already reading you. The only question is, will you trust it with your heart?" We were sitting in one of the observation galleries, the projection window showing Earth. Hanging like a marble sphere above the horizon, surrounded by silent darkness. "You've been here a long time, haven't you?" I asked. "Too long." "Why did you stay?" "Because someone had to remember." He inhaled from a small vaporizer, some mixture only veterans were allowed to use. "We can't interfere directly," he continued. "That's the law." "Whose laws?" "Galactic ones. But there are loopholes. And one of them is us. The Galactic Union, are they still looking for you?" "No. They've forgotten us." Or pretend to. Until Earth becomes interesting again. He looked at the projection. And it is becoming interesting. Restored satellites, nuclear posturing, strange signals from Venus. You think you're here because of your reflexes? No. I think I'm here because I had nowhere else to go. He chuckled. Then you're almost ready. The training intensified. I no longer flew in simulators, but in real crafts. Agile capsules, azure arrows, they called them. They were alive. They could sense fear, doubt, will. If you lost your composure, they stopped flying. I realized the Atlanteans hadn't built weapons. They'd created allies. Their ships were living systems. And to be a pilot, you had to become part of their spirit. One day, returning from the training chamber, I saw Kara and Nuri arguing. It was a contact, I felt it, Kara said. An energy trace at the edge of the shadow. It's just cosmic noise, Nuri shrugged. No. It's a precursor. Someone's looking at Earth again. I approached them. What's the shadow? The lunar orbit zone, Kara explained. A region where signals bend. We use it to hide. But today someone tried to scan it from the inside. Who? That's the problem, she said. Either us, or them. And it wasn't us. That night, I spoke with Cyrus again. So what now? I asked. Now you begin to understand. This station isn't just a base. It's a watchtower. And if the signals come again, you, me, and Kara will be the first to launch. You think they'll return? He was silent for a long moment. I know they will. They were just waiting for us to become interesting again. He stood, adjusted his uniform, and looked up. And as always, we're not ready. Chapter 5. Point of incursion. The alarm didn't sound like a siren, it felt like an internal jolt. As if an invisible hand pressed gently against your heart and gave it a squeeze. It was a signal embedded in our nervous systems, something that triggered from within. The Atlanteans didn't trust sounds. They trusted intuition. I woke instantly. Kara was already at the exit, fastening her suit. Her face wasn't tense, just focused. Object detected in the zero signature zone, she said. We're launching. The station vibrated with a low echo. I recognized the pulse, the docking bay had activated a Spear-class ship. Cyrus was waiting for us at the airlock. There was no fear in his face, more like anticipation. This is the first contact from outside in 6 years, he said, looking straight into my eyes. You're flying second seat. Listen to the ship. Listen to yourself. Everything moved fast. Kara and I took our positions. The cockpit sealed shut, the gravity sphere stabilized, and the capsule's inner voice whispered. Ready. Link established. Command priority, point defense. We undocked, and the darkness beyond the hangar opened like a black flower. The lunar surface dropped away. We passed through the orbital shadow and entered the observation zone. The object was already in sight. It didn't move. It just hung there above the moon's far side, barely visible. No pulses. No signals. But we knew, it wasn't a rock. It wasn't a satellite. And it wasn't one of ours. Scan, Kara ordered. A rush of data flooded our minds. Size, 18 meters. Configuration, non-terrestrial. Metamaterials. Reflective structure. Most importantly, no identification codes. Object not of Atlantean origin. Not registered in the Alliance. Threat level, potential. It's a probe, I muttered. No, Kara said. It's a scout. It's looking for an entry point. Then it moved. A second. And the space around it warped. As if the air, though there was none, had flinched. The object began descending, not in orbit, but straight toward the surface. Toward the station. He's found us. Kara was already requesting intervention clearance. Code Helion 1. Intercept authorization. Clearance granted. Activate deceleration beam. Prepare impulse strike. I saw her hands merge with the console. She wasn't piloting, she was connecting. I did the same. And in that moment, the ship became me. And I became it. We advanced. The scout accelerated. Its body shimmered, phasing. If it shifted to superposition, we'd lose it. Now, I said. Fire. A beam of light, transparent, barely visible, struck its hull. It jolted, swerved, but didn't vanish. Second impulse. Kara fired again. A flash. A discharge. A white bloom lit around the scout. And it froze. It's not destroyed, she said. Then it's not just a probe, I replied. We brought the fragments back to the station. Not the core, more like a discarded shell. Inside, nothing. Cyrus met us at the airlock. He looked at the metal shards, then at us. It remembered us, he said. That scout wasn't sent to explore. It was sent to verify. Verify what? He turned to the Earth, suspended in the projection window. Our readiness. Later, I stayed in the hangar. Alone. Beside the wreckage. Nuri came up quietly. It was a warning, he said. Like in the old texts. They will return when we grow loud again. We've been loud for a long time, I murmured. Yes. But now, they're listening. Chapter 6. Fault line. I couldn't sleep. There were no nights on the lunar station, just shifts in the lighting spectrum and internal clocks. But this insomnia felt different. There was a ringing emptiness in my head, as if something had been lost between two worlds. Between the man I used to be, and the man I was now. I sat in the observation bay, staring at Earth through the transparent dome. In the holographic grid projection, it looked vulnerable. A blue, fragile sphere suspended in silent void. You're still wondering why you're here? Cyrus's voice came suddenly. He sat beside me with a sigh. Yesterday, we didn't just repel a probe. We made ourselves known. Now they know there's resistance here. Next time, it won't be a scout. It'll be an extraction team. And we're not part of it? I asked, looking at him. Cyrus smirked. We're off protocol. Out of time. We're a glitch in a system they gave up on long ago. But you know what's worse? What? People down on Earth have no idea. They've forgotten who's protecting them. He paused. But sometimes, someone wakes up. Like you. I went to the tech bay, under the pretense of checking modules. Truthfully, I just wanted to be alone. But he was already there, waiting. Tall. Almost translucent. His features were neither alien nor human. Something in between, like an ancient artist trying to paint the future. He was a keeper. You're the one who burned and remained, he said without sound. His voice echoed inside my mind. What do you mean? Your pain. The loss of your son. The exhaustion. They burned away everything unnecessary. You're bare. That's why you were chosen. I said nothing. How do you even choose? I asked. We don't choose. We wait. Until someone finds themselves. And then, we offer a path. He stepped closer. His eyes shimmered like quartz. They will return. And with them, the will of the Galactic Accord. They'll say you are primitive. That you break the laws of harmony. That you're dangerous. And then what? Then someone must stand between their judgment and your survival. Someone unafraid to vanish. I found Kara on the training deck. She was running maneuvers in the virtual capsule. Her body moved with predator precision. No waste. Only purpose. What keeps you here? I asked. She didn't answer right away. I lived on Earth. When the earthquakes of 2039 hit, my family was evacuated north. I was trapped under rubble. The Atlanteans found you? No. I found them. Crawling. Through ash. Through stone. I made it to their entry point. Because I knew, no one else was coming. She turned to face me. So now I'm here. And if I have to die, I'll die standing. Later, I received a signal. Encrypted. Personal. A transmission from Earth. I didn't recognize the call sign at first. But the signature at the end. Tom. I've submitted my application. Launch is in 2 weeks. Maybe I'll see you. D. My son. Something tightened inside me. The words blurred. I felt my fingers curl into fists. He was alive. And he was following my path. I climbed to the central dome. The keeper was already waiting. What will you say? He asked. If he really comes, will you let him through? That's not up to me, he said. It's up to you. Me? You are the bridge now. Between them and us. You are part of the fault line. I looked up into the sky. Where the stars seemed frozen. But I knew, they moved. They were watching. And someone, out there, had already begun counting the minutes. Chapter 7. Leap into the abyss. The alarm signal was different this time. Not an impulse. Not a sensation. It came like a dull rumble from within, as if the moon itself had shuddered in anticipation. They're here, Cyrus said. His voice didn't waver. But his eyes. His eyes stared into the void where death had already begun to bloom. The enemy made no effort to hide. 3 ships broke through the orbital shadow. Not probes. Not scouts. These were assault modules, angular, as if carved from black stone. Their hulls didn't reflect light, they consumed it. First vector heading for the comm dome, Kara reported. Second, reactor sector. And the third? I asked, though I already knew. To the point. Straight to us. Mobilization took less than a minute. Everyone knew this was the end, and moved faster because of it. 3 of us took to the skies, me, Kara, and Nuri. Cyrus stayed behind at the station, no one was stepping into his place anymore. My ship responded like it knew, this was the final flight. The cockpit sealed with quiet finality. The interface slid into my mind. Combat protocol. Priority, base evacuation impossible. Survival protocol, declined. Self-sacrifice protocol, activated. I didn't override it. Just nodded. The maneuvers started as we approached. Kara, precise as always. Nuri held the right flank. The enemy didn't waste fire. They knew where we were weak. They aimed for the station's heart. I'm taking the central one, I said. They've got a hangar on the lower deck. That's their brain. Tom, you won't make it out, Kara said, trying to stop me. But her voice faltered. I'm not supposed to. I dove into a steep descent. Below me, the massive alien vessel emerged, smooth, black, almost featureless. Only glowing markers along its frame, like living scars. I activated the phase drive. The shift, instant. Resistance, nearly zero. Slipped beneath the belly of the ship. I saw the hangar. I saw the core. Direct hit will destabilize the field. Estimated blast radius, 12 kilometers. It would be enough. Transmitting data, I said. Final seconds. I clenched my fists. On the screen, a confirmation signal. The base had received the coordinates, schematics, the internal map of the ship. They'd have a chance. "See you, kid," I whispered. The impact was soundless. The light, blinding. The burst turned darkness into a white explosion. The enemy vessel ruptured like an overloaded vessel. The others wavered. One jumped to hyperspace. The second began drifting, control lost. The station survived. The signal cut out. Far below, on Earth, somewhere in a barracks. A young man with a close-cropped haircut and a haunted look read a message on his tablet. Transmission complete. Operator, Thomas Harper. Status, unknown. Mission assessment. Critically successful. He closed his eyes. "Dad," he whispered. The night was quiet. And somewhere, beyond the edge of time, a lone ship dove into the abyss, so that others might continue the journey. Chapter 8. Legacy. The sunny morning felt strangely quiet. No gusts of wind, no engine noise, the barracks stood frozen in hesitation, much like he did. Daniel Harper stood at the application desk. The papers in his hands trembled slightly. The officer behind the counter skimmed through the lines, checked the signature. Pilot program. Aviation. Any recommendations? No. What made you apply? Daniel raised his eyes. His voice was uncertain, but steady. I want to be there when it happens again. When what happens? He said nothing. The officer nodded and took the documents. You'll get your response within a month. Good luck. He stepped outside, and only then did he feel the tremble inside. Not fear. The weight. The weight he'd been carrying all these days since the message arrived. Operator, Thomas Harper. Status, unknown. He hadn't dug through the archives. Hadn't searched for footage or filed any requests. He'd simply accepted it as fact, his father had disappeared again. Maybe for good. But something inside him whispered, he didn't die for nothing. That evening, he sat at the edge of the cliff, the same one where, as a child, they'd flown paper airplanes together. Back when his father was still there. Back when the world still felt simple. You knew, didn't you? He whispered. You knew one day you'd vanish. He pulled out an old photograph, just the two of them, in flight jackets, big ears and goofy grins. Daniel smiled faintly. And I'm still angry. Angry you weren't there. Angry you left. But now I get it. He crumpled the photo, meaning to throw it away, but couldn't. Carefully, he smoothed it out and tucked it back into his pocket. On the moon, in the archives sector, all was quiet. Kara powered up an old terminal. The final transmission appeared on screen. Subject, Harper, Thomas. Code 17X. Last message received. Final phrase, "See you, kid." She froze. Cyrus came up behind her and placed a hand on her shoulder. His data helped us finish the barrier reconstruction. We'll be able to withstand the next strike. He knew he wouldn't come back, Kara said softly. But he wanted us to survive. Wanted someone to carry on. Who? She asked. Cyrus pulled up a new video feed. A young man in uniform was filling out a form. Him. A month later, Daniel received the letter. He was accepted. Training would begin in 6 weeks. He stood in front of the mirror, wearing his training uniform for the first time. He looked different now. More certain. But the eyes were the same, stubborn, like his father's. "Well, old man," he murmured, "your watch is over. Mine's just beginning." The moon gazed back in silence. The watchers waited. The world was wounded, but not broken. And in every new drop of starlight echoed the voices of those who had already given everything. But it is in their place that the new ones rise.